Hi there, you're at the Chainlink Wyckoff technical analysis session, and we will look at both the weekly and daily time frame and see whether Chainlink is still trying to head towards the buying climax, or is it already done with the climax at a lower point than what we had back in December last year. So in the weekly chart, what we're seeing here is this question we have been asking for 2 weeks already, whether Chainlink is still heading towards the buying climax, or is this time it's having a lower peak over here. So compared to last cycle, during the PSY period, we had some lower volume bars. This time, likewise. So it's a bit interesting, especially this week, because the price range is not that small, but the volume is pretty low. So there's only very little change of hands, and seems people are comfortable, both the bulls and bears are comfortable for the price to be at this level. That's why we've got a cross over here at around $25.74, and it means maybe the bulls has set up a platform for the real buying climax to show. As of now, we're not sure yet whether we will have these crazy volume coming, or is it already going to come down. Because if it really reached a climax, usually a red candle will immediately follow a lot of times. But of course there are exceptions, but most of the times in a weekly chart, when a climax formed, a red candle is usually what we see, and not that we have such green candle, or at least like a cross over here. It seems like it's an intermediate transition in the PSY period rather than the buying climax. But let's say if it's like 80% chance it's PSY, 20% is the buying climax. So I'm more inclined to think there is still chance for Chainlink to go show us the buying climax. May it be lower than the last one that doesn't touch the purple level at $29.20, or maybe this time it's going to close a little bit higher. It's still yet to be confirmed. The accumulation period itself was longer than what we had back in 2024, so maybe we'll get a better momentum. Let's take a look at the daily chart. So daily chart here, last time we asked the question, are we going to see an upthrust after distribution? And the tricky part looking at the daily chart is, while I consider this upthrust, and this seems to be the upthrust after distribution, the fluctuations itself, because if I name this red candle AR3, then that means I have already defined the upthrust of the distribution at the over here. Then I have to call this candlestick something else, like UTAD2, because it happens so frequently in the daily chart. So rather, I would consider this a process, a build-up for the upthrust of the distribution. So basically, it's similar to some PSY. So in the daily chart, it's difficult to see because it's too noisy. Sometimes during a PSY period, we'll see some noisier moves, much like this one. There's a mix of red and green candles. So it's not always everything is green, much like what we've seen here or here. So there are cases where there is a mix of candles. So especially for upthrust of the distribution and upthrust, during the climb towards the upthrust and upthrust of the distribution, I see sometimes, even though we don't call that a PSY, but it's like there's a PSY2. This AR2 I can confirm now. So it's like there's a PSY2, and then eventually it goes up to the upthrust. This time, over the past few days, to me it's like the PSY3. So it's the path towards the actual upwards of the distribution. So my consideration is this may not be over yet, so it's challenging the blue key level, and it may still be going to challenge the purple. So back to the weekly chart here, like I said, 80-20 chance or 70-30, like it's going to the purple, challenge the purple, and then eventually continue with its journey, whether it's up or down. As of now, it doesn't seem like it's going to like go crazy unless there's some crazy news suddenly pops up, like the black swan scenario. But now, looking at both the weekly and daily chart, especially if I draw an upward trend line here as well, this is still within the upward trend. It hasn't broken below this trend line yet. So, however, the price is in here, so you already immediately notice this triangle, right? If the price stays below the blue, like what it's now, when it continues in the next 2 days, by next Monday, it has to decide, or the bulls and bears has to decide whether to continue with this trend and go above the blue, or to break below this trend line. It doesn't mean it's going to immediately go down. It can still bounce from any one of these levels and continue to leg upwards. But then the yellow line over here, the dashed line, will become a resistance line in that case. So while the selling volume isn't as high, the bulls may still have a chance. Looking at all these long green bars, there were quite some change of hands if we look at these bars over here, while the candlesticks were like pins or crosses. So be really careful. There may be quite a bit of distribution going on at these level, and when people FOMO in, those FOMO in basically bought the dip and then pushed the price upwards, and then the whales distributed more in those rebound. So it may be a scenario like that. So be really careful, even if it really comes to the upwards of the distribution for Chainlink, especially like in the weekly, and we go to the buying climax. So that's the nature for distribution cycle, right? So the big guys distribute whatever they have on hand to the people who FOMO in. So while you're trying to catch the last wave, or even if there's upwards and afterwards of the distribution coming in the weekly chart, stay cautious, because it's going to get very rough, I would say, from now onwards for a lot of altcoins, given the recent waves of surge. So it may be getting to the, how should I put the word? I don't want to say it's the end, because it's not ending yet. It's getting close to the end of the music, if we play musical chair. So the music is still going on, but wait for the moment when the music stops. So that's it for Chainlink for